You guys are watching the Cowboys Report. I am Tom Downey. Today's show takes a look at some of the top Cowboys offseason winners and losers before camp begins in about a month, give or take, at the end of July. Talking free agency, draft, offseason workouts, everything else in between. So a lot of different things that we'll discuss on today's show in terms of the offseason workout or offseason winners, losers, which I think for most people was a fairly big disappointment for the offseason. So I want you guys to grade the Cowboys offseason. I think this is going to be a lot of low grades. A, B, C, D, or F. Go vote in the comments section. First winner, wide receiver Jalen Brooks. He's got some pretty good praise for a lot of the offseason workout stuff. Dallas didn't really commit to adding an obvious veteran or early round pick at wide receiver. So that gives a lot of these back end wideouts, including Jalen Brooks and Jalen Tolbert, the chance to make a bigger impact than what they did last season. He's fighting for a roster spot, but also could work his way up to wide receiver 3. This is kind of more of the workout winner. So 2 is the next name on our list. That is Brandon Cooks, the veteran wide receiver. Though the single most constant thing I think we heard at OTAs and minicamp was, wow, Cooks and Dak are clicking in a very positive fashion. And I think that's a good sign, because remember how things went last year. The first 8 weeks versus the last 9 weeks. Now, that was actually 9 games versus 7 games, but the bye was included, etc. The production out of Cooks was drastically different. The targets nearly doubled. The catches basically doubled. The yards skyrocketed. The average was better. The touchdowns tripled. Now, look, there's more games. That includes the game he lit up the Giants with like 9 catches and 10 targets that kind of inflate the numbers a little bit. But he was way better in the back half of the season. So I am optimistic we'll get more of that version. And I want to see him more on deep balls too. Really, with CeeDee Lamb out, all of those young receivers, Brooks, Tolbert, even Turpin, Flournoy, Durden once he gets healthy, Cropper, those guys kind of took advantage a little bit of having more opportunities. So the young receivers in general, certainly I think were off-season winners. I'll cheat again here, name more than one player. It's Rico Dowdle, and also like all the other running backs who are on the roster. Dowdle, I think, is at this stage of his career, because I don't think he'll ever be as good as prime Zeke was, is the best running back on the team. Now, his biggest thing is he's got to stay healthy. And it was a small sample size, barely got to 100 touches. I thought he did some good things with those touches. If I'm also ranking Rico Dowdle among all NFL backs, he's not top 32. And I think he kind of pushes to be top 60. And I think with the contract given to Ezekiel Elliott, I'm going to put him at RB1. I would like to see more Rico Dowdle there. I think he offers a little bit more juice and big playability than what the current version of Ezekiel Elliott offers. But the Cowboys didn't address running back in terms of like an obvious starter, an obvious stud guy. Royce Freeman, Ezekiel Elliott, at this point, those guys are journeymen in their careers. We'll see if Deuce Vaughn can be anything more than our small king. Malik Davis, does he get a chance now? Snoop Connor was off a team last year for half of it. Like, it's not a good backfield, but that gives all those guys a really good opportunity. So will Rico Dowdle end up as the RB1 for Dallas? It is today's pinned comment, so take advantage if that ad comes. Y for yes, N for no. Next up is Trey Lance, and I am stretching this a little bit, but there's been a lot of positive praise from the Cowboys coaching staff, and I think they're trying to send the good vibes basically out there to Trey Lance. But I do want to make this clear. He was not perfect in the spring. Now, this was not a flawless OTA minicamp where it's like, oh man, Lance looks so good. No, he did miss throws. He did make mistakes. And that's fine. He needs the reps. But he's going to get those reps. I am, frankly, more excited about the Cowboys preseason than I can remember being in a long time. Because you have a young quarterback who's going to play a bunch. DiNucci kind of didn't with the way COVID happened. Right? Trey Lance is going to get all of those reps. And for the first time in a very long time, Cowboys training camp is not going to be stat tracking Dak or paying attention to Dak. It's going to all be about Trey Lance. We're going to have daily updates. Trey Lance did this at training camp. He threw 2 touchdowns, had 1 pick. And we're going to be tracking it every day because it's time to see if he can be the backup to start and maybe more than that because this is his offseason. After this, he's out of his contract altogether. So pick a backup QB. TL for Trey Lance, CR for Cooper Rush. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Sticking with kind of the training camp, minicamp side of things, or minicamp OTA side of things here. Maurice Leafau, third-round pick, the surprise third-round pick out of Notre Dame, has had a ton of positive praise. There's been coaching praise, there's been player praise, and the biggest positive I've seen is the praise is not like, oh, he's making a bunch of splash plays. It's like, nah, he's super smart. And that you can get a decent feel for, but it's not always, you don't bat 100% of like identifying football instincts at times. That can be covered up or exposed depending on what the scheme is, etc. But Mike Zimmer wants high football IQ players. If Maurice Leafau can do that, that's a big deal. Does he emerge as more than LB4? Maybe. Maybe he's LB3 to begin the year and kind of replaces Damone Clark or Overshown, slow to recover. In an ideal world, though, he's your starting middle linebacker next season. And that starts with him having a good offseason and training camp this year. So name a Cowboys offseason winner on today's show. Any player or coach, if you want to go that route, you can put Mike Zimmer in the winners category. Al Harris got a promotion, I guess, if you want to. Let me know an offseason winner in the comments section. Wanye Thomas at safety. Dallas didn't do anything at safety in terms of like adding impact players. And Mike McCarthy really praised him earlier this offseason. And I am excited to see what Wanye Thomas can do after showcasing some flash last year. He wasn't the most impactful player, but he did make plays when he got the chance to. And down the stretch last year, I still stand by it. I think the lack of interest proves it. I would have rather seen Wanye Thomas out there more than Jaron Kearse. Dallas has depth at safety. Malik Hooker, Donovan Wilson, Marquise Bell, plus Wanye Thomas. TBD on what Israel Mukuamu's career looks like. Red Wine offers that safety depth, really more special team, practice squad options right there. I could see Thomas being more than just safety 4 for a team that will not use as many 4 and 3 safety looks remotely as they did last season. Now you can get the official Cowboys NFL draft hats by going to chatsports.com/Cowboys draft hat. That link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. Tons of styles, variety, colors, and more. I would advise clicking that link because you can see the kind of 3D effect they're going for, which you can't always see on just the straight up YouTube side. So go to chatsports.com/Cowboys draft hat and get your Cowboys NFL draft hat, the official 2024 version. Some offseason losers for the Cowboys. How about the 2023 rookie class? They haven't really been out there, right? Mazi Smith, your first-round pick at defensive tackle, shoulder surgery, is not 320 right now, not even close. Luke Schoonmaker was once again injured, missing time. DeMarvion Overshown, I think, is going to be a good player, wasn't out there yet. Junior Fehoko made no impact last year. Is he a DT or a defensive end? Awesome Richards, the Cowboys drafted a first-round pick at left tackle. He ain't going to start over him long term. The Cowboys also drafted Marshawn Nealand to kind of fill the better version of Fehoko role, right? Eric Scott, fighting for his life. They drafted Kalen Carson. Deuce Vaughn probably was a bit of a winner, but that's fine. Hell, last year, your 2 biggest impact players in your draft class were your 6th and 7th round picks, basically. Shoemaker had more drops than touchdowns. Like, that's a bad thing. Jalen Brooks and Vaughn were winners, but like your top 3 picks weren't out there again. They got to get going. Next up is Peyton Hendershot. He also missed time. Minor injury, then was away from the team for personal reasons there. He's also fighting for his life in terms of making the Cowboys roster. Ferguson and Schoonmaker are going to be on the team, but John Stevens, Brevin Spann-Ford, Princeton Fant, I would not be shocked if any of those guys, multiple of those guys, made it over Hendershot. He has to earn his spot this year. Had Stevens not gotten hurt, he would not have made the team last year, Hendershot. Could be in the exact same spot again this year. For the best Dallas Cowboys YouTube coverage, good news. You've come to the right spot. Hit that sub button right now, youtube.com/CowboysTV. I kind of teased it in the rookie class section. The young backup tackles are not exactly in a very good spot at this time. They've got to get things squared away, and they have to earn a spot. Let's go add the depth chart, then we'll go mention some of those names in order here. You have roster locks on this team. Tyler Guyton, Tyler Smith, Cooper Beebe, Zach Martin, Terrence Steele. I'd also argue Brock Hoffman, TJ Bass are going to make it on the interior. Maybe Nathan Thomas. Either way, I think you're looking at maybe 1 to 2 spots for a backup offensive tackle. And Chuma Edoga may or may not end up being one of those guys. That's not necessarily a lock either. So all of a sudden, it's Awesome Richards, Matt Waletzko, Josh Ball, and maybe Earl Bostic, who could potentially fight and claw his way into a spot. That's too many players, not enough spots. So something has to give from that perspective. Otherwise, there's just not enough spots. So a draft pick, plus Bostic probably, is going to end up getting cut. And of course, I assume barring injury and stuff. Israel Mukuamu, next up, who I like, to be clear. I want to emphasize that part because the loser side is kind of negative. I don't know what Israel Mukuamu is still. I think his best spot is at corner. I think that is where he would make the biggest impact for this organization. That would be his best path to helping out the team, making it and making plays. He did that against Tampa, right? Kalen Carson, though, was a draft pick. Deshaun Wright, Eric Scott may or may not make the roster. If he's a corner, maybe he carves out a spot. He didn't get any run with the ones, though, at OTAs and minicamp. And if he's a safety, he's safety 5 at best. So all the sudden, it gets a little bit tricky to carve out a roster spot for Israel Mukuamu. I like him, but there's no guarantee he actually makes that 53-man roster, even though I personally am probably higher on him than most. So name a Cowboys offseason loser. Let me know in the comments section of today's show who you think didn't turn out or didn't have a great offseason the way you would have liked to have them have. The number one offseason loser ties right back into to grading the offseason, A, B, C, D, or F. It's us, the fans. It's been a bad offseason. The Cowboys are gaslighting us and saying over and over, we're all in, we're all in. No, you're not. You didn't make any moves. You actively made this team worse and have not set yourself up for great success in 2025 either. It has been a terrible offseason for the Dallas Cowboys. And the worst part is ownership doesn't seem to care. That's super frustrating and super disappointing. So I think the number one offseason loser for the Cowboys, I think most of us would agree, it's us, the fans.